fellow cyborgs, and welcome to the introduction to my Victober reading vlog. I will be popping in every, I don't know, we'll just see what ends up happening. It's going to be loosey-goosey to let you know how I'm doing with my Victober reading. So let's just start off with what I'm starting off with. I will be starting with my buddy read of Evelina with M.A. Anders. I'm going to be listening to the audiobook of this. I haven't started it yet. I have 11 letters to read today, the first day, and I will let you know what I think whenever I start on that. And then I've also decided I'm going to start on The Half-Sisters by Geraldine Dewsbury. I'm hoping to get this read in like a week or so. We'll have to see. There are 60 chapters, so if I kind of try to get to 12 chapters a day, I should be good. We'll see if that happens. I've only read about 25 pages so far, and what I know in this is pretty much what the title says. What I knew going in is that there was a man who fathered two daughters, one illegitimately and one legitimately, and I think the rest of this is going to explore how their lives diverge. So by page 25, we've met both of the sisters. There's Bianca, whose mother is Italian. Her father never married her mother, even though they lived together for like a year and a half. Then he went to England and just never sent for her. He didn't know that Bianca was born, and her mother has been holding this wish to one day, when Bianca was grown and beautiful, to bring her to England and reconnect with the father of her child. And pretty early on, we find out that Bianca's father is dead at this point, so that dream is not going to happen, and it's Bianca's turn now at age 16 to figure out how to support her mother, who is not physically or mentally well, in this foreign country. I think right now she's actually trying to find money to get home, but I have a feeling that's not going to happen. And then we've also met, his name is Philip the D-bag. Philip's legitimate child's name is Alice, and she seems like a really interesting young lady. She's 14 at this point, so a little bit younger than Bianca, and she's very imaginative. She really loves nature. Nobody can make her do what she doesn't want to do. She sounds really bookish as well, but her mother is incredibly pragmatic and strict, does not enjoy when Alice at all has any sort of emotional outburst or expresses opinions, so she feels very caged. One thing I thought was kind of interesting so far, though, is the names Alice versus Bianca. So Alice's root means from nobility, which I suppose harkens to her legitimacy, but very little else, whereas Bianca comes from the root word that means white, and then you, I suppose, could extrapolate pure. So I'm wondering if Bianca's sort of path through her life ends up showing that she's somehow the more pure, or I guess, this is kind of loaded, but like superiorly moral sister than Alice, even though Alice is legitimate and of a noble birth. So we will see. Hello there. Today is the 2nd. I am sitting down with a cup of pumpkin juice that I made yesterday. I will insert some clips of the pumpkin juice escapades. So here's all the ingredients minus a cup of sugar that I forgot to put out, and you mix the canned pumpkin with a little bit of water to like thin it out. Then you add it and a bunch of apple juice, and then less than the amount of apple juice of apricot juice, and then a buttload of pumpkin pie spice and some vanilla extract, and then the sugar, and then you bring it to a boil and then simmer it at the stove for, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes so that the flavors commingle, and then after that you can let it cool and then pour it into your storage container. And I was thinking, I tried to strain it when I went to pour it into the storage container, but that didn't work very well because, as you could imagine, the canned pumpkin in there is very clumpy, and so it just clogged the thing. So I decided to abort that mission and just have clumpy juice. So I had some yesterday when it was still kind of warm, but I'm having some now that it's cold, and it's supposed to be drunk chilled, so I'm gonna have a sip and see what I think. Yeah, I think it's definitely better chilled. It is thick, but not like unpleasantly so. It's like borderline unpleasantly thick, and it mostly tastes like apple pie innards. Not very pumpkin-y, but that's okay. I'm fine with pretty much like a thick apple cider. So, however, I did want to update you on my reading. So I have started Evelina, and I read the first 2 days worth of letters. So I've read through letter 15. I'm liking this so far. It's definitely an easier read than I thought it would be. I'm listening to the LibriVox audiobook, which does not have the highest quality narration, but there is one person dedicated to each character, so that makes listening to the letters easier to follow than if just one narrator was narrating the whole thing, which is how it was for the audiobook of Lady Susan that I listened to, and that was kind of confusing. So I appreciate that differentiation and also the consistency of that differentiation. That's making it really good. And Evelina is way spunkier than I expected her to be. She reminds me a lot of Catherine Morland from Northanger Abbey, and especially with the faux pas that she makes being out in society for the first time, but Evelina's are like quite a bit more dramatic. Her mother died giving birth to her, and she's been the ward of a Reverend Villers, but she has a living grandmother, and this grandmother came from a very, very poor background and then married well, but then her rich husband only survived 2 years into their marriage, and she's very much looked down upon, and just there's so much shade thrown at Madame Duval. At this part in the story, which is not very far in, and I don't plan on really talking spoilers in this vlog, but I will talk about some just like early on developments just for the sake of having something to talk about. Evelina has met her grandmother now accidentally, and the grandmother wants her to live with her, and Evelina wants to continue to live with Reverend Villers, who is her only parental figure. Evelina apparently also is incredibly irresistible. She has had a few instances at balls where she's had guys wanting to dance with her and they just won't take no for an answer, and it's been like off-putting, but retold in like a funny sort of way. But still, I just kind of find myself thinking like, what is it about her? So I'm enjoying it more than I expected to, and it's a lot easier to follow than I expected as well, which is good. So my plan is to finish sipping my pumpkin juice and then to read some more in the Half Sisters. I didn't read any more yesterday after I spoke with you. It was a busy day. I had to decorate for Halloween. I had to, and I had to clean and stuff. So now I'm going to sit down and hopefully get a chunk of the Half Sisters read. Hello there. So it is day 4, and I've started a new book. I decided that if I wanted to get through the life of Charlotte Bronte, I should probably read a chapter a day. So that's going to be my new goal. So I've just read one chapter, and it is very dry. It's very much not as readable as Gaskell's novels that I love for the most part. You wanna come up? And the first chapter had mostly to do with setting the scene of, oh, ouch, that was my flesh. Okay, the cat has joined us. Of setting the scene of Keighley and then Haworth, where the Brontes lived, and then at the very end we visit the graveyard and the stone that is their headstones communally. And I guess it was really sad, not necessarily because the writing was did it, it was just the fact of it, that Charlotte was the last sibling to die, and she also does not fit on the same stone as all of their names, so she is just separate from them in more ways than one. I've read a fair bit more in the Half Sisters. I'm on page like 128 or so, and we're definitely evolving into the two different sisters' lives. One thing I'm finding about Jewsbury's writing style that is not working for me too well is that she goes in depth into the personalities and psychologies of the characters, but to the point of making it just kind of difficult to visualize or understand how this person would function. So she's almost too specific to the point of it just being equally incomprehensible as if she was too vague as far as their personality and psychology. Another thing I'm noticing a lot in here is she really likes to generalize about women specifically, and I don't think that that's like an only her thing. I think maybe I'm just picking up on it more now that I'm a more mature reader of classics, but there's an awful lot of like, here, I'll give you an example. Kind words from those she loved were far more value than kind deeds, an idiosyncrasy common amongst women and children, which is just, very stereotypically, I guess, your idea of women and children. And then I have been keeping up with Evelina as well by Frances Burney, and I think I just finished letter 23, and I'm really not enjoying this very much more than at the beginning, unfortunately. A lot of the same things keep happening, which is something that Emma pointed out because we're buddy reading it. She keeps getting accosted by these ridiculous men who just think she's absolutely beautiful. We're not getting a lot of development into the like amicable relationships she's developing with the people she's staying with. We're pretty much just hearing about these men who put her in really awkward situations and are not very, nice to hear about. And then also Madame Duval and her friends who Evelina thinks are like the worst people ever. And they are pretty crass and ridiculous, to be sure, but I think there's just a lot of classism happening, with Evelina just being horrified at people trying to act above their station. And I guess as an American and a contemporary reader, I just kind of don't get it, and it just kind of annoys me. I do think that this is a fairly comic novel, and I don't like laughing. So there's a possibility that the tone of this is just never gonna really gel with me. I'm not quite sure. So that's some of the reading that I've been doing. I also spent this morning gardening a little bit. I repotted this very root-bound, overgrown plant that had just been neglected in the front yard, and I'll show you clips of what it looks like now. I did not take a clip of what it looked like before, but believe it or not, all of these plants were contained in the one large pot. The one really large pot that you see. So I took it out, I separated them, I gave them a little bit of breathing room, so hopefully they won't die. And speaking of plants, I thought I would show you around the plants in my room, because I am a new plant mom aficionado, I guess you could say. So behind me that you can see right now, that is Sal. Sal is a prayer plant, a calathea, and specifically a peacock plant. So that means at night, Sal folds up their leaves straight up like that. I don't know why, but that's just what Sal does. Sal is a bit of a care monster and needs a lot of tending to. Doesn't like the humidity in the room, so I had to add a tiny little baby humidifier, and I'm not sure if that's working, but Sal seems to be doing okay. Sal also has really pretty purple underside leaves, so Sal's definitely plant baby number one. Though I have had Gary for a lot longer than Sal. Gary's an air plant, and I was given this as a gift by a previous client when I was working at my previous job, and I've only recently really started caring about Gary because unfortunately, whenever you are gifted plants, unless you are a plant person, I find them more burdens than anything. However, I had realized that Gary likes baths rather than mistings to be watered, so I've been drenching him in water, and he seems to be liking that a little bit more. So I have definitely been trying a little bit more with Gary as opposed to just neglecting him as a little ornament on the desk. And then the newest addition is, can you see her? Is Anna up at the top. She's a heartleaf philodendron, so her leaves look like little hearts, and she's eventually going to have tendrils that come down the bookcase. That's my hope, at least. She's supposedly hardy and can survive in the relatively low light up above my bookcase, because occasionally it gets sunshine up there in the morning, but then the rest of the day it's just kind of like this. So my hope is that Anna will survive and be a wonderful plant baby, and then the rest of these are all fake from World Market, because I don't trust myself to keep. I mean, these 3 plants are enough, so let's hope that Anna is as carefree as she says, because I think I can keep Gary and Anna alive if that's true. Sal's a project, so let's hope that Sal survives as well. So I'm going to do some more reading, and yeah, that's it. I'm going to do some more reading. Hello! It is now the 8th. I'm by my plants. You can't see Sal, but I will show you Anna. She's right here hanging out in the sunshine for now, and I have not been reading all that much, mostly because I just have plants on the brain, and also realized that plant tours on YouTube is a thing that is dangerous. I do have some updates for you because my reading has changed a little bit. If for some reason you see vapor, it's the humidifier that's right here. I have DNF'd 2 things. I have DNF'd the audiobook of Evelina by Frances Burney. This was very episodic, 2-dimensional characters. Evelina is the most beautiful, kind, and perfect person with absolutely 0 personal growth to be had, and every man who lays eyes on her falls in love with her, and 3/4 of them are annoying pricks. I was going to say a bad word, but I decided to spare you. And it just kept happening, and they just kept getting talking space in the text, and none of the women did. So I was just not into it, and M.A. Anders, who I'm buddy reading this with, was also just impatient with it, so we decided to get rid of it. Good news is that it was easier to read and follow through for an 18th century book than I was expecting. Bad news, no character development, and annoying characters to be had galore. After a few days, I also decided to DNF The Life of Charlotte Bronte by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is the nonfiction that Elizabeth Gaskell wrote about Charlotte Bronte, as you know. I got halfway through the 3rd chapter which still wasn't about Charlotte Bronte. And I just realized that the writing style is just not going to get better. It feels very much like Gaskell was so concerned with this book feeling like a serious nonfiction that she completely abandoned her own writing style, which is what I really enjoy about Gaskell. For the most part, Gaskell is really readable. It feels very contemporary sort of writing style, and she's got interesting character developments, and she spends the first chapter telling us about the location of Haworth, the second chapter giving us stereotypical, at best, unflattering at times, depictions of the Yorkshire people in general. And then the third chapter started off with being about her father and her grandparents. And I've read many a biography that goes into people you don't care about at the beginning of a biography of a specific person, but it's just the writing style. It is not like Gaskell. And I found myself thinking, you will probably put as much effort into reading this 400-page historically inaccurate, dryly written biography as you would in Juliet Barker's 900-page, historically accurate as far as we can tell, and far more detailed biography of the Brontes. And I would much rather take on a 900-page, easy to read, really informative, and historically accurate biography than this. So I'm going to abandon hope and just not finish this at all. The weight has been lifted off of my shoulders. I have not read very much further, like just 5 more pages in the Half Sisters. There's something about this that is just, I'm finding hard to get story traction to. And you know, I think part of it is that this is a only light spoiler. Bianca, who is the illegitimate child, or the child that did not come from a marriage, because there's nothing not legitimate about her as being a person. Bianca ends up going to the stage, being an actress to try to earn money to support herself and her mother. And I just find that I am so just waiting for her to be sexually taken advantage of in this position, and especially since she's so young and a foreigner. And I think that there's this amount of a part of me who just doesn't want to read anymore about Bianca's story, because there are so many ways that it could go sideways and she could be traumatized and it would be bad. Obviously, there isn't going to be a graphic rape scene in a Victorian classic, but still, just like the thought about it, I think is giving me a minor nervousness when I pick this book up, and just kind of trepidation. But without going into any spoilers, at this point in the novel, it has developed in a way I had not expected at all. So I think the rest of this book will surprise me in ways that I hadn't anticipated, but it's just a matter of me kind of cleansing the air with this one a little bit and trying not to get freaked out when it's really not necessary. And so in the meantime, I decided to pick up Shirley by Charlotte Bronte and see if revisiting an old favorite would be a way to kind of get me to focus on my reading a bit better and less scatter-minded and thinking about how many plants I could fit in my room. And this is working out very well so far. I only have read a few chapters. I've been spending my time doing a lot of things besides just reading. Hello, I love you. I've read just the first 4 chapters, and even... What? You want to come up? I know the thing is here, but you'll be fine. You could be happy up here with me. Come on. Come on. You can do it. Yeah. See, it's not scary. It's just doing its job. She doesn't like the humidifier, but she's coping, because laps are more important than humidifiers. Oh, it's your book now. Okay. So even though the first 4 chapters have nothing to do with Shirley, though I do think that Shirley is really misnamed, I think it gives you unfair expectations for what you're going to find in this novel. I'm finding it to be a lot more readable. I'm getting into the flow of the chapters. I'm not having to page count so much. I'm just enjoying the reading experience. So I think it was a good idea to take a break on the Half Sisters, DNF the books that were not making me happy, and try a book that I think will make me happy. So that's the reading that I've done in the first week of Victober. I'm going to end the vlog here for now. When you see me again later in the next vlog, I think I'm expecting some new loose leaf tea to come in the mail, so I think I'm going to make myself a tea party and have you come along with me, and then we'll see how I continue to get on with Shirley, and if I can enjoy the Half Sisters a little bit more, and see what I think about Sylvia's Lovers by Elizabeth Gaskell, which I'll be picking up later this month. So oh no, she's found the plant she's not allowed to eat. We have to abort mission. I will talk to you guys later. Thank you for watching, and until next time, continue to be lovely.